Call roll.
Randy Getty,
Yes.
Sam Gibson, Artie Buzz, Charlie Whitaker, Keisha Richards, Cindy Putnam,
Yes.
Brent Anderson, Terry Dunn, Christy Payton,
Yes.
Marie Grant,
Yes.
Bill Gibson,
Yes.
Ann Stamps,
Yes.
Michael Burton,
Yes.
Catherine Hicks, Barbara Weaver, Don Hollingsworth,
Here.
Bob DeCruz, Linda Pastor,
Here.
Erin Davis.
All right, we have a quorum. Mr. Hollingsworth, would you care to give us an update on Mr. Lust?
I just told you a while ago, Mr. Lust is still in the hospital, got surgery. He had a brain tumor. He had surgery in Murfreesboro and come back now home, but he's taking surgery. And he didn't even know he had this brain tumor. And his family says, yeah, you need to go have yourself checked. And he had a brain tumor and they done surgery down in Murfreesboro. And he's coming back now. And he's hoping to come today.
Oh, gosh.
That sounds about right. Marvin.
But he talked good to me.
Good. That's good. Thank you for the update. That's good news. Next thing on the agenda would be the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I make a motion to approve as it is.
Thank you, Ms. Ann. Got a motion? Got a second from Ms. Barbara. Any questions, amendments we need to make to the minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carried. Next thing would be the dashboard update, Ms. Linnell.
Hi there. Thanks, everybody. So I do have a little bit I want to talk to everyone. All the dashboards are in your binders, and we're looking at March through June since the last time we met. So I do want to go over and just try to draw some correlations and different things to let you see where we are. And then I have just a couple of other orders of business that I would like to bring to your attention. So if you're looking at our insure, and I've kind of just summarized all of these months, we're still struggling with supply chain issues with our insure, and it's very frustrating because the need is out there. We've slowly increased what we've been receiving from March to June, but we are nowhere near where we need to be to meet the needs. So we do purchase that off a state bid. So if you guys do hear folks out in the county, grumbling or complaining, if you could please be our voice and let them know that we're working very hard to try to get that, but we're very limited on flavors and also quantity issues still at this time. So we are ready for those supply chain issues and disruptions to stop so that we can get fully stocked and meet the need. May was a big month for LIHEAP. As you can tell, June was pretty slow. So what we did, we've added some information to social media to let them know that we still have LIHEAP funds available. We expect this to pick back up as we move toward October. October is typically our busiest month with LIHEAP. As you can see, our crisis, and those are folks that have a shut-off notice within 48 hours, is pretty steady. Putnam County is always going to have more crisis than the other counties. So once again, if you hear people that are struggling with energy bills, please direct them to their local county office so we can see if they qualify for LIHEAP. Looking at the community stability program numbers, you can see that those continue to drop throughout the month. And the reason being is that we've spent the majority of our specific assistance on rental assistance and food vouchers. So we are pleased with that, but of course we know the need is there. We'll get more money in October for CSBG. We are also will not be running rental assistance through CSBG. We have a new program that we're hoping to start even before October that's going to help with rental assistance, and I'll keep you guys updated on that as we get closer. For our LIWA, our water programs, we still have a little bit of specific assistance, but we are out of dollars to administer the program. So we asked for a budget revision to put some funds into outreach. And to start with, we looked at our 4 highest counties and had them do an outreach event. A lot of them had waiting lists, so they were able to work with those folks and just have a water day so that they could sign everyone up. So we'll wait to see how that goes, and I can update you guys at our next meeting on that. There was an error on the last dashboard. There was a 14 by LIWA with no funds listed. Those were just referrals. and that should not have been on there, so I do apologize. Looking at our weatherization program and applications, that is driven by need. So we do have waiting lists in most of our counties, and the state lets us know how many homes we're going to weatherize per each county. Looking at commodities, those are staying pretty level. We do have one county that our numbers continue to drop at each distribution. And so we did some research and we realized that there's multiple organizations disseminating food, and some of those other organizations are disseminating refrigerated food where ours is just not perishable. So we know that folks are getting what they need and just not having to utilize us as much. And the last on our dashboards is the information and referrals, and we began tracking this last program year, and because we realized that our county offices do a lot of this activity, and it's one of the reasons that we're shifting our focus for the Community Service Block Grant going forward. So those are the updates on dashboards. Does anyone have any questions before I move into some other updates? All right, thank you. So the first thing I want to let you guys know about is that we're expanding our child and adult care food program, that's CACFP, and historically that's where we've worked with daycare homes where they're getting reimbursed for serving that healthy food. We've just in the process of getting an application to expand that program to go over to the center side. We hope to be working with Putnam County Nutrition for all the Putnam County schools to do some training and monitoring and to help them with this at-risk program. If everything goes good, that'll be coming October 1, and I'll be taking this to the board at the next board meeting to see where we're at. We have finished up our needs assessment, and Jordan is now waiting on the community action plan application. And we shared our top 5 needs previously with you guys. Folks are looking for higher paying jobs, access to affordable housing, quality job opportunities, resources for people who are homeless, and access to mental health services. So those are the things that we were looking at with this program. We don't duplicate, so if there were services out there, we wouldn't be duplicating those. So Jordan is finishing up this application, and we'll be bringing that before the board for some approvals. We're not quite there yet, so we'll be bringing it to you guys at the next meeting. We would still have time if there was something you guys wanted clarification on that we could give that to you. So we have just been very, very busy expanding and just trying to serve folks, and that is the end of my report. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Linnell. The next thing on the agenda will be the roundtable, and I think Mr. Harvey is going to.
I'll introduce Megan Spurgeon is going to come forward and introduce a couple first steps. We're going to talk about our Circles program that was introduced to the Upper Cumberland, and then after she gets through, or they get through with that presentation, we'll talk a little bit about child care. Child care is one of those issues that we hear so often as being a desperate need for the region. And we've got Rosa Smith that's going to talk about that. Megan, if you bear with me a second. I started thinking as Linnell was talking through the dashboard and all the services going out. And we still have a lot of people in the region that desperately need our help. Not just our help, but all the different agencies and groups and nonprofits that are out there working, trying to improve the quality of life. And that you're always going to have a need out there. I want to just reflect a little bit, because there's a big summit at Tech tomorrow, and I have to speak, and I've been doing a little research. And there's good news. And I feel like we need to put this good news out there. I think we need to realize how far our region as a whole has come. Too often we can't see the forest for the trees because we're in the midst of everyday struggles and problems and issues. And I was doing a little research and getting ready for my presentation tomorrow. If you were to look back, Bill Gibson, I'm going to put you on the spot. How about that? You're sitting right in the hot seat. 12 years ago. Now, I need to give some clarification. The federal government looks at every county across the United States. There's 3,113 counties across all 50 states. And the federal government takes 3 major economic statistics, and they rate every county in the United States, and they'll actually rank them from the best to the worst. Now, what they'll then do is take that list and they break it down into groups. So a lot of times you hear the term distressed, a distressed community. Unfortunately, that means that of all 3,113 counties, you're in the bottom 10% from those economic statistics. And then it goes up from there. The next level is at risk. It means you're in the bottom third. The next one is transitional, means you're pretty much in the middle. And then competitive is the next one, and attainment is the top tier. So there's different classifications. You hear those terms quite frequently. So Bill Gibson, in 2012, going back 12 years ago, the best that we have is transition. That's the best we've ever done in the region. How many transitional? That means that they're in the middle of the pack right there. How many communities do you think we had in the Upper Cumberland that fell into transition?
I know there was a lot in distress. I'm going to say 3.
You were close. We had 2 counties that fell into transition. It was Smith and Cannon counties fell into those categories right there. We had 6 that were at risk, and we had 6 counties that were in the bottom 10% of the United States. In this year's numbers, which just come out not long ago, what do you think those numbers look like today?
Better.
Much better. Much better. We now have 7 counties that are transitional. They moved up, they're in the middle of the pack. We've got 6 that are at risk, and we only have 1 county that's distressed.
That is a big
I think that's good news, and we need to be reminded of good news from time to time. That's progress being made. So these programs that we're doing, too often we get a little jaded and we think, well, we're not really making an impact. We're seeing the same people year after year. But we're making an impact. We're improving that quality of life, and we're moving people out of poverty. So, all right, with that, I'm gonna quit my preaching and hand it over to Megan Spurgeon so she can introduce our next guest.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And actually, that event that you're talking about tomorrow, Tennessee Tech Empower, is holding one of the breakout sessions where if you are going tomorrow and you're interested in this at all, feel free to come see us and you'll get to hear more. But we're talking about how this collaboration can be a workforce solution for a lot of our employers. So I wanted to take just a moment. It's been a while since I've seen you all and got to tell you about what's going on with Empower Upper Cumberland. I have some very quick updates, and then I'm going to turn it over to 2 of our community engagement coordinators who are going to be talking to you about Circles, which is basically what we would consider kind of our flagship program for Empower Upper Cumberland. So I first want to make sure that everybody knows about how families can come into the pipeline to become a part of this program, and that's through our website, empoweruppercumberland.org. You can get there from our UCHRA website or from our UCPD website, I believe, as well. But empoweruppercumberland.org is where they would go, and they would simply click that Apply Now button. And the very first question, of course, is do you have children in the household? Because that is a requirement for this program. So anybody that's receiving any type of services, be that food stamps, Section 8 housing, TennCare, any of that good stuff, they are likely going to be eligible so long as they have children in the household. So please point them to this. If they don't have ability for internet access, they can give our 800 number that's on this website a call also, and we'd be happy to complete that for them. Just to give you guys a little bit of an update before we turn it over to these ladies who are on up here, I believe. Before we do that, we have 275 families enrolled. We basically started enrolling in February, so we're very proud of that number. We are the 2nd highest number for enrollees out of the 7 pilots across the state, which we are very proud of. They are very proud of the group in Nashville, but I like to let them know that there are twice as many families in Davidson County as there are in the entire Upper Cumberland. So I think we're number 1. That's my opinion. So anyways, we're working with 275 families currently. We could greatly use some help in Clay and Van Buren counties. If you know some families that might be in need of some support, we would love to help them. We are having some great strides in some of our other small communities. Jackson and Cannon counties are doing great. So we definitely don't want to leave those smaller communities behind. We want to make sure that we can help those families in Clay and Van Buren County. So I want to turn it over to these ladies who want to talk about Circles. We are working and we've done some restructuring in our department in collaboration in order to get Circles up and going faster. And that's that community and family relationship-based programming that we do here in Putnam County, and we've got some exciting news about the new chapters will be opening here in the next several weeks, or actually this week, I believe, next week, one of those. So this is Belinda Westmoreland. She's our community engagement coordinator for Cumberland, Warren, and Fentress counties, and then Vera Trovaugh is our community engagement coordinator for Smith, Clay, Macon, and Jackson counties. So, ladies. Okay. Thanks, Megan. Okay, I'm going to start with a little scenario. You heard a little bit about circles, a little bit about empower, and how we're going to recruit these families. Okay, now this family has a case manager, navigator, and they're going to hop in the car together. Remember the interstate, you're going down the interstate, and you've got these little exits you can go off. And today we're going to take the circles exit. So you've got your family, you're going to take the circles exit. Once they have took that exit, the family now becomes a circle leader. The circle leader will meet with meetings once a week for 2 hours. The families choose the night that they would like to meet. These families come in, and remember, I would say 95% of our families are single parents with many children. So this is something that we want to build an intentional relationship, but at the same time, this single parent is going to get to sit down. They're going to be served a meal. They get to sit family style with their children, which again, 95% say that doesn't happen at home. They get to get up for dinner, stretch for a minute, and children go off to the youth program. Now we have only adults. These are your circle leaders. These circle leaders are going to sit together. They're going to work with the community. They're going to work on goals, gaps, and removing barriers. Okay? So basically the circles meetings, the main thing that we work on is building a healthy, intentional relationship. These are things that a lot of our families have never had. They don't understand. They have a lot of people that love them, but they don't understand what a healthy, intentional relationship is. So that is our goal, is to come in and help build that, create that. The second thing, we want to increase poverty IQ. If you are situational poverty, sometimes you understand. Something happened, I need to get back on course. But we see so many families that are generational poverty. So to them, food stamps and living from home to home to home to home because you couldn't pay rent is normal. That's what grandma did, that's what mama did, so that's what I do. But once they build this intentional relationship, they find there is another way. And they get support through this. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on. Right now I'm working with Cumberland, Fentress, White, Warren, and Van Buren. I'm going to start with Cumberland and Fentress. We did August 10th, or no, sorry. We did July 20th. We have a volunteer recruitment at a church called Fellowship, Cumberland Fellowship. Recruited 8 volunteers. And the reason I'm bringing that up, these families can't do this without volunteers. We need someone to serve the food, someone that can be in the youth program we're in, someone who can be a mentor or an ally that can walk, get in that car and drive on this path once they're in circles. Okay? We also need sponsors to sponsor these meals. So at that point, on the 20th, we come in over 80% joined up. We now have enough donated sponsored meals to September 14th, and we have enough volunteers for the first 5 weeks. That was our goal, was the first month behind us. So starting August 10th will be our first service meeting. I'm so proud of this. It's the second chapter in the state of Tennessee. Only the Hun. But that's amazing. That's great news right there. Today, we're still working with White County.
White County is presently holding Ready to Learn events, 4 nights, 4 weeks, 2 hours apiece. Straight from that, we'll start scheduling a recruitment for volunteers in White County. So I'm looking at seeing who all's in, who I know from who I know from what. So that's what we need. We're going to begin recruiting volunteers in White next. Right after that, your circles meetings will start. Circle families are ready in White County. They are ready in Cumberland County and Fentress County right now. We've got enough families to go. We need community buy-in. So with that being said, we have Warren and Van Buren left that I will be working with. And that is on the horizon. We're still working with securing the families. Then it'll move in the same direction. But I want to bring out a few little points real quick. I want to say, with Cumberland Fentress, Rosie Smith. Amazing. She is my champion volunteer, and that's what I have to have. I have to have help. She's recruited for me. She's actually volunteering in my youth program room to help me. The goal of Circles is to start this from stable and make it long-term. We don't look at short-term anymore. So the goal is to turn this over to that community. Let that community take it over with volunteers, ambassadors, champion volunteers, and volunteers. So I want to thank Rosa real quick for that. She's been a great help getting this off the ground, and all the county coordinators that are here. They're amazing help. So today I did bring with me, and I will leave them for anybody that would like to take some. Volunteers needed. We have a QR code. Doesn't matter if it's my county that I work, Clears County, anybody's county. All you have to do, I mean, it makes a great little flyer in your Bible at church, I promise. Stick it in there, take it to church, talk about circles, talk about empower. All they do is scan that little code, and it takes them right there, you're right on the phone, sign up. Do y'all want to help serve mashed potatoes? Do y'all want to help in the youth program? Do I want to be a mentor? So I will have these, and I will set these over here for anyone who's interested. If you're not interested, you can't volunteer, you might know somebody. But that's what Circles is all about. It's about changing the numbers that Mr. Farley just talked about. Our poverty numbers and our families.
Megan said, my name is Lyra Strobel. I will segue right after Belinda to show, once you do that QR code and this flyer, I'm going to show you here where it takes you. In case anybody is interested, it will bring you to this volunteer page. And you can scroll down here. It will talk about volunteer opportunities, what an ally is. Click here to complete the application. I need that to be bold and bright. So click here. It takes you to the application to be a volunteer for Circles, to come and serve those mashed potatoes or be a mentor, whatever you're called and led to do. We also have a video here from our very own Heather Thomas. A wonderful video. She's an ally for the Circles Putnam County cohort. So we thank her for doing that. So that's where that flyer QR code will take people to go on and sign up. Thank you, Belinda, for painting a picture of Circles. That's what Circles does and how it serves the families. But I want to kind of give you a little bit of how we're doing in Putnam County. Putnam County started its cohort last July, 2022. And we've been going for a year now. So to give you an idea of how this intensive care, wrapping around these families, giving them the mentorship, the encouragement, the empowering them to be better parents, to help them on their journey. They all want to work hard and they want to better their circumstance. So who doesn't want to help somebody who wants to help themselves? We all do that. In the back of our mind, it's like, gosh, do they really want it? They really want it. These families are working hard. These families are working so hard that we now have 4 homeowners in our group. We started with a group of 8 who have been in our cohort for Putnam County, and we now have 4 homeowners. They've been asking questions about Beacon Score, and we've had people come in and talk to them about credit counseling, how to raise all your things that look better to buy a house. They've really been asking and wanting this help. The biggest thing this past week, which we had a wonderful session, was grocery shopping. Grocery list. The struggle is real. What's for dinner? And of course, groceries are going up. Everything's going up. So They do get assistance, but that's not as much anymore with the grocery bills getting higher. So we had a couple of specialists come in and talk to them, and it helped them tremendously. So that's the intensive care, how Circles really helps these families. So I wrote this down, Mark, you talked about making an impact. So we have programs, we have financial help, but making an impact for the family, sitting down once a week, giving them the opportunity for a free meal. Mom doesn't have to make dinner on Thursday nights. Our Circles chapter meets on Thursday nights. Jefferson Avenue Church of Christ. They've been a great host to us. So they come in and dinner's provided. Then they come in, they eat a meal with their child. The child goes to the youth program. Then mom gets to work on her plan. What's critical? What are my steps? What's going to get me to get this house? So we have 4 homeowners. We have 3 Circle leaders who have gotten better paying jobs. They just needed the encouragement. They need to step away from that job and go out there and get something that they're underemployed. So they've been able to get better jobs and make more money. And this one particular one got a job where she's at the daycare with her son. So it was just a great, but she never would have made that move. She had an ally, a mentor through Circles, and she said, I never would have done it without her. Never. And she's one of our star people. There's a couple of them that have already gotten Circle leaders who have already gotten certifications and advanced in their jobs. So this is working. Circles is working. We've got our cohort 1 Putnam County again started last year. Our cohort 2, we started a whole other class, cohort of families, and they started 6 weeks ago. And in this particular cohort, we have 2 families that are mom and dad. And we're so happy because for 1 whole year, we just had ladies, which is great. But when this first gentleman showed up, I was like, hey, we haven't had any guys here. We just want to say hi. Because we would love to see that family unit together. We love to see them going through this together, learning all this together. And what are your barriers? How can we get someone to come in and speak to you about what your barriers are, whether it be credit repair, groceries, trying to buy groceries, and navigate the grocery store. So that's what Circles is doing in Putnam County. And I cannot wait to get it started in my other counties. So we're kind of like recruiters, getting volunteers, getting mentors, finding those locations, getting these Circles chapters set up. So you're in here and we'll find you and we'll talk to you. And we'll make sure we get to scream it from the rooftops about Circles and how I can do it. Thank you.
I want to touch on something I got to witness the other night. Linda was there. My church is volunteering to host one of the Ready to Learn, and we had some volunteers, and I was there as well. Just got to be a fly on the wall. And, I was listening to a couple of the moms. And both of these moms were single moms, or one's in the process of being a single mom. She had 5 kids and going through a divorce. Sitting there thinking, boy, that's a horrible situation to be in. The other one was working, had a good job, 2 small kids, single mom, and her employer had shifted her work hours and started asking her to come in at 4 o'clock in the morning, get off at 2, but had to come to work at 4 o'clock. She had 2 small kids. And she's sitting there, and I'm sitting there thinking, if she wasn't a part of this group, she'd quit her job. She would have had no options. But in that environment, she was able to talk to one of our volunteers who actually worked for LBJ&C, the Head Start, and they're like, hey, we can get you in. This is what time we can take the kids. And you could see in her eyes, she's like, maybe I can make this work. I could work through it. And that's the type of things I think that, that the Circles mentality, that concept has, is talking people through the difficult times and helping them understand there's an option out there. Now that can be applicable in so many different fields, in substance abuse, in probation or whatever, just the ability to talk people through these problems. So I've got to see it firsthand, and I'm going to tell you, I'm a believer. So anybody have any questions for the ladies about what goes on in this?
One question. As far as your volunteers go, you were talking about servers and people to be there for the kids part. Can you use high school students who need hours towards your Hope Scholarship?
Yes, we can absolutely use Hope Scholarship for kids that are in college that are needing it for their Tennessee Promise. If they are over 18, we do a background check on everyone that's in the child care, that's started in child care. So, but if they're under 18, we don't have to do that. That's absolutely.
Okay, so have you reached out to like the local, something really nice. So have you reached out to the local counselors and
We're in the process of that right now, and I'll be back Thursday with Emmy and Emily. And so we already have, Emily has reached out, and we're working with the Hope Scholarship requirements right now. So if you have an in for that, I'll do it.
And I do want to clarify, there will be an adult with kids under 18 also. We're not going to leave the kids with a bunch of high schoolers, but they're absolutely able to assist. Yeah, they are. And one thing I do want to add too is, and Mr. Farley alluded to it some as well, is the social capital that these families have now. I mean, we have so many of these ladies from the first cohort who they run into something and, oh my gosh, I have no one to pick up my kids. They get into their group message and then all of a sudden someone's picking up their son from school, or, hey, my car needs to be picked up. Can anyone drive me during their lunch break? When they didn't have that, you know, they say when the circle starts, you have less than one person in your life you can call on with an emergency. And now these ladies alone have 10 people, not including us. This is just the other circle leaders that they have. And it's been very cool, and Heather has been great in getting that camaraderie together with them as well. But tickets to baseball games, and they all go to the park together on the weekends. It's just a very cool environment. So if you've not been, we would love to have you, and it's something really special to see.
Thank you very much. All right, Rosa, it's the Rosa Smith show now. Through Empower is to look at how to solve some big system problems. And one problem we hear time and time again is lack of childcare. Lack of childcare. It comes up at every meeting that we're at, no matter what community. No community anywhere that ever has enough childcare capacity to handle the needs out there. And that's not even before you start talking about price and those type of things. You know, Rosa has been charged for the last few months of really digging in and trying to figure out what's going on, and she has pretty much nailed a lot of the problems. And today is a test, so not for her. We are developing a presentation that probably will go up the chain. We've already met with the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. We feel like we'll probably make some presentations to legislative groups moving up, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the governor's office somewhere along the line going through and detailing what is going on, because it's a lot of bureaucracy that has caused the problems in our child care industry. So today we're starting to craft our presentation, and I've encouraged a couple of ladies in here. I was telling Christy and Cindy to wear her out, asking questions or making comments, but help us craft the message where we can take this on, because this is a problem that can be solved. It is a solvable problem. It's just going to take several state departments realizing they've got to work together and streamline their services. With that, Rosa, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. No pressure. So now that I'm under attack, actually, you all can help us. Why don't we all get together and decide, let's sharpen our tool belt. Let's see what tools we have available or what's out there that we can speed up this process and help this process with child care. So this morning in this presentation, I'd like to address 3 core areas that will provide a better understanding of why we find ourselves in the situation we are today regarding child care. First, we're going to define the problem. Second, we're going to provide a history. And then third, actually have some solutions for child care. Defining the problem. As you see on the board there's some that we all know about. There's a low margin business model, high regulations, high startup costs, we're in a recession, and there's staffing crisis. Within our region, we need to identify the number of slots available and divide them into 2 different categories, early education and workforce. But before I actually define the 2 different categories, we need to keep in mind we do not know the number of child care home-based unlicensed facilities out there. So you're allowed to keep children like 4 and below into your home without being licensed. We don't know those numbers, okay? So keep that in mind. So as you see on the screen there, you have your workforce child care. Those are your unlicensed in-home, your licensed operations, before and after care, birth to 5 years of age, year-round. Your early childhood education are your Head Start programs, your pre-K, your Mother's Day Out, your 4 and 5-year-olds that follow school schedule. The early childhood education does not meet the need of our families. Also keep in mind, on the workforce child care, all of those facilities that are licensed come through the Department of Human Services. Most of your early childhood educations are your Department of Education, besides your Head Start programs, and they are licensed through the Department of Human Services. With that stated, you will see in the Upper Cumberland area, for workforce, we have 3,870 slots. In early childhood, we have 8,335 slots. An estimated of 7,000 slots are still needed in the Upper Cumberland area. Currently, all licensed facilities that we have in the Upper Cumberland area have a waiting list of 6 months to a year, year and a half to get into their facility. When mothers find out that they're expecting, they're starting to put their names on waiting list and still not guaranteed to have a spot. Business climate is always changing. As Mr. Farley talked about, hearing one of the parents in the circles that her company she works for is changing. They're going to start earlier in the mornings, 4 a.m. What do we do? These parents, what do they do with their children at 4 a.m. when they have to be on the clocks? So it's constantly changing. And another challenge we have identified is actually those second shift positions, those non-traditional hours, those early morning shifts. What's happening? The time frame to open a new facility is anywhere from a year to a year and a half. And the cost is estimated at $1 to $1.5 million to open a new agency. Therefore, only 5% of providers actually become licensed and open their facility. Over time, we've seen a severe decrease in child care agencies. Some of our counties are considered a child care desert, where other of our counties have not seen a new agency open in over 20 years. Parents are forced to decide between workforce or child care. Is it worth going back to work? For a new child care provider, this doesn't make a good business practice. Regulations over time have actually become a barrier to providers. The red tape, the ratios, the administrative requirements, the trainings. Licensed teachers cannot become a director of a child care facility without furthering their education and retraining for a daycare facility. The staffing concerns, their unrealistic expectations, the lack of resources that are available to them, the mental and physical exhaustion to them, and low wages and low benefits. While actually listening to staff over into the Upper Cumberland area of these child care providers, it actually was heartbreaking. For teachers, the ratio, I had one teacher tell me, I can watch 7 one-year-olds by myself, but I'm not allowed to take one into the bathroom and change it without taking my eyes off the other 6. How do I do that? And God forbid you have a fire in this building. How do I load 7 one-year-olds up and get them out of the building? So the stress on them, their concerns, the ratios. I sat in an in-service the other day where a teacher actually stepped down to become a janitor because of the physical and mental exhaustion in their jobs. Building codes, high startup costs. State fire marshal. If you're to watch 24 or more children in an agency, it requires architectural design, a fire sprinkler system, a voice activated system that's over $100,000. Most of the time, it's a stopping point for that provider. DHS will actually email you 90 pages of rules and regulations that add to the cost of these new providers. With that, you also have your local health departments that have checklists, 10 or more checklists that they come in that add to the cost of playgrounds, fencing, plumbing, toilets, square footage, ceiling, lighting, and goes on and on and on. Planning and zoning, you have to have a letter of approval for planning and zoning. Again, you're adding cost to these providers. The lack of succession planning, we have to face it. Most facility owners, directors are our baby boomers. They're retiring. No one's going to take over. If they do find someone that wants to buy that facility, DHS comes in, State Fire Marshal comes in, they're grandfathered under the old building code. Guess what? They're going to have to be brought up to the current building codes. There's no interest because the cost is so astronomical. Solutions. We have to review these regulations. The stress on the owners, we have to reduce the time frame and the cost to open these new facilities. We have to provide incentives. We have to provide support. We have to provide resources to these providers. The parents and guardians, we're going to have to provide quality, affordability, availability while reviewing these requirements. While listening to parents and their stresses of child care, I actually had a conversation with a parent, and she said, you would not believe how many times I get a phone call at work to come and pick up my child because they have a 99 temperature. I encourage you all, go talk to your child care providers. Go talk to staff. Go talk to parents. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. When reviewing the regulations, we have to rethink the model. In order to provide the number of workforce slots that we have to think large capacity agencies. We cannot think unlicensed home where you can only keep 4 kids. We've got over 7,000 children in the Upper Cumberland area that needs child care. We have to think employer-based models. We need to provide incentives to employers and actually facilitate and guide our new potential or our new providers that want to show interest in having child care. We need to expedite the site approval. You will see, once you go through an orientation, DHS will come in. You have all these others that you have to work through, as you see a list there on the screen. You've got your DHS, your State Fire Marshal, Plans and Coding, Department of Health. Did you know none of them have a time frame of when they need to get back with the person, when they need to get you licensed, when they need to provide you all the information you have? There's no timelines. So you have a potential provider that's sitting there fighting to get their doors open to make contact, and there's no timeline.
Rose, I want to interrupt you. I need to break up your train of thought. A perfect illustration. We were working with a provider that was working with the school system, one of our local school systems. That school system had built a brand new elementary right next door to the existing building. It was fine. They're using it for administrative offices and everything else. They had a wing that had housed kindergarten students, so 5-year-olds, a whole wing right there. And they decided, why don't we work with this local provider, let her set up her daycare inside this building right here. Of course, they're looking at it from the standpoint of serving their children, their employees' children. They would not approve a school system, a school building that had been housing 5-year-olds, kindergartners, this year to house a daycare 6 months later. It did not meet their requirements. That, to me, is insanity. So, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. I had to bend myself a little bit.
I had it on my nose and overlooked it, sorry. Another thing is she actually had to hire an architect to design, to put in a voice-activated system in that building that was utilized for kids in our education department. And in the time it took for that to happen. We've got to better train architects, engineers, state fire marshals. They've got to be some communication and train these architects. These architects are actually, when they have interest and want to come in, I'm going into child care, we're going to design a child care. They just pull codes of on the child care, pull them in, overbuild, over-design that child care to where that provider has so much expense that the architects want to get it passed, but the provider is the one that suffers. And there may be other alternatives. They don't know. They're just pulling all the codes. We have to increase the revenue. Funding ways, incentives to provide to these providers. Making businesses more profitable. Profitable, I feel like, is the key word there. By becoming profitable, we will build capacity and we'll have happy and healthy agencies in child care. Any questions for me?
Good job.
Thank you.
I mean, this is a huge issue. A lot of it can be corrected. It's going to take a little time. It's going to take state government working hand in hand. They don't always do that. They don't always work across departments. But it's just amazing when you get in how frustrating it is. And I'm going to be honest. After we've had meetings, I've left out of those meetings so daggum mad. I was getting fired because it's just government bureaucracy running above. Now, if you've got comments or anything, or other anecdotes you might like to share, if you know of other stories, that's what we're trying to do, is build those anecdotes, build those stories as we go through, helping them understand how urgent the situation is and how there needs to be a change at the very top to make this problem go away. It is a solvable problem. There's a solution. We just got to get them to act on it. So.
And Mr. Farley, so, going back to that child and adult care food program, that application I was talking about, Crystal White's been doing this program with UCHRA for many years, at least 15 years, and still her amount of documentation that had to go, this right here is what her grant was. So we are expanding that over, and they're requesting the same information from me, where we're expanding it. So now mine is this, and we've had to put the same information into about 14 different slots in this application and pull backup documentation at every slot. So you have a grant application this big, and I'm not exaggerating.
I know that when I went to my local provider, when Megan called and said, hey, we're got this grant from ECD, you can have, for child care. And I only got one licensed local provider, right? Randy, I'm not interested. Thank you, Mayor, for reaching out, but I don't know. And I said, well, you need to give me some reasons why. Free money. And, well, first of all, I got to get engineered drawings. I don't have $20,000. That's what they're going to charge you. It's just a baseline. So I can't do that. Secondly, I don't have time to do the paperwork now. I got in this 25, 30 years ago to be able to teach young kids and help moms and people like me out, and I don't teach. All I do is paperwork. And just to stay caught up. Number 3, every time the fire marshal comes in, I have to make repairs. Not one time, every time. And if they change, the fire marshal changes, some things that you did in the past year, you're fixing to redo them to meet this new fire marshal's regulations. And so, when I call and say, hey, there's a grant opportunity, it won't cost you anything, no, I'm not interested. That because it's just too hard. And there's and that's an issue, Rosa, you got your work cut out for you. And nobody wants to start for startup costs. And you're talking about making it profitable, people can't afford it. Okay? My bookkeeper, mom's going to have to go back to work for insurance. So now she's going to have to drive to Putnam County to drop a kid off. That's 35 minutes one way a day. And the cost, I ain't even going to say how much they're charging. It's ridiculous. Okay? I know they need to charge it to make money because of other things we're talking about. But my bookkeeper making $50,000 would be better off to quit. Because this ain't worth the time and the money. I'm sorry. I'm just giving you, and I know I'm the doom and gloom, but that is the real challenge in this road.
I
And you've heard all this, but if you want to talk to a child care provider, you ought to take the time to go see them and just ask them, and all this is real. I mean, what she just said is real, and I don't have the answer. And you're right. And legislation is the problem. So I don't know how you can deregulate it, but legislation is the issue because you have this one bad apple out here that all these things happen with this one child care. And so our answer is, well, let's make it more stringent. Well, all you're doing is you're tying the hands of the people who are doing it right. And I don't know that that's the answer. The answer is throw the book at the person who does it wrong. That's me. You know, so I had an analogy that I choose not to use. But
you know, Rachel said that a lot of the on the provider side, the owners were baby boomers. That's the same way for those unlicensed daycare homes. They're all older and they're starting to retire. So then what is going to happen? We see a lot of the daycare homes that we sponsor, they do, you know, baby boomers who are running those, and they're ready to retire.
Two statistics that are out there. Christy, correct me if I'm wrong. It costs more for child care than it does college education. And the second one, looking at from start to finish, if Mayor Head here started, was determined, and followed through and opened a facility, the average length of time is 1.5 years from start to finish to get one open. That's unreasonable. So.
And Rosa, I want to give you an A+ because you did an excellent job. That was a lot of great information and presented in a very understandable way. So hats off to you. But I see this from so many different viewpoints. My son is a teacher, my daughter-in-law is a nurse, and they have 2 littles, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they go to a wonderful daycare in Cookeville, and it's over $300 a week. It's more than their mortgage payment is on their home. That is hard, but then I walk into the daycare and I look at the teachers who are incredible. I look at the staff who work so hard and are consistent with these kids. And when we look at children and a child's development, that birth to 3 years old is so vitally important. And just like in circles, we said we need an ally to walk alongside that family. In child care, we need a consistent face for those kids to see. They need structure, they need reliability, they need routine, they need to know what is happening to them every day because that reduces a lot of angst and anxiety and trauma in their life. So yes, quality child care is not only vital to take some stress off the parent, it's also vital to take some stress off these littles because they need to be in a happy, wholesome environment every day with staff that's not overworked, that's not spread too thin, that's not underpaid. So it is a huge problem, but I think, how do we eat an elephant one bite at a time? So I think this is an elephant, but I think you guys are on the right path, and the prayer of my heart is just going to be the ears that you present this to are open and willing to listen. Because remember, when I do the poverty training, we say poverty is the extent to which a person does without resources. If you have the ability to get on a waiting list and you can pay for child care, you're going to get really good quality child care. And one of the problems we see, even because I work for the school system, is we have a hard time getting our low-income families to sign up for pre-K because they don't have reliable transportation to get the kids there. And then if somebody does run a fever and the nurse calls, who can leave work to pick them up? So there's a lot of issues that across all socioeconomic groups are impacted by this child care. I don't know, I'm going to call it just a child care depression. I mean, it is just such a hard thing. And I don't know that there is one answer, but I think this is an excellent start. Hats off to you guys for pursuing this.
And our ask for you is, if you know people in your communities that are operating daycares or parents, and if they've got stories they can share, like Rosa shared about the one being sent home with a 99-degree temperature, pass those along. Have them reach out to us. We need to be able to document that, to show what the issues are that's being faced on a daily basis. So.
And what's sad, I'm sorry, but what's sad, it hurts me is the middle class, the people who are really trying to work, that's the ones that suffer. Okay? People who can't get their child in Head Start, right? And the person who can't get it in the school programs, and for us, it's Foxy Fours, and there's another one, right? I don't know. Our schools have these little things. And like my bookkeeper, you know, the people who are working and trying to do real good, that's the ones that are really struggling.
And I wish we had Head Start for all socioeconomic groups, because Head Start is a well-oiled machine and they do an incredible job. And I feel like if we could have the Head Start structure and the Head Start staffing for all groups, and maybe it's a sliding scale. If you can't pay, you know, anything based on your income, but if you can pay, then there would be a charge for that. But Head Start is a great place to start if we could expand Head Start. Imagine if we had multiple Head Starts in every community. I mean, multiples of what we have right now.
The only drop that they would have to change their model just a little bit, because that's when you look at the list of licensed child care facilities and slots, it says we've got 12,000 in that company, but 8,300 of those, being mainly the pre-K and the Head Starts, they're not open in the summer months. They follow that school schedule. So when school lets out in May or whenever, they shut down their doors. And our employers don't do that. So that's part of the problem. They would need to expand their hours to meet the workforce needs. So I agree with you. We operate one of the Head Starts, and it's a great operation.
And currently the trend is to, in budgeting for Head Start, the numbers are going down. So they are not receiving the money, and so their incomes, you know, and the budgets, you know, are declining for the Head Starts instead of increasing.
Yeah, they have to commit to that number of slots, and so we were hearing a lot at a conference that are having just to reduce their slots because they're having trouble finding the children to come into the school. And then some of them are, when I think some of the school systems are expanding their pre-Ks and different things like that. And so it's that balancing, but you're absolutely right. There's slot reductions all across the U.S.
Yes. And also, you know, like when you're talking about, you know, rethinking the model, we're talking about, you know, standalone facilities, but maybe incorporating some of the bigger employers to have on-site and especially those facilities and those companies that have like second and third shifts. You know, that would be ideal. So, I mean, that's the ideal, but, you know, of course, that's rethinking the model. And all those, you know, those businesses, they do have some money. And actually, you know, it's actually fostering the workforce, you know, because they have a reliable workforce. If they have a sick room for the kids that have the 99 fevers, and they have different shift works too. So, you know, that's maybe something to think about when we're rethinking the model as well, is to push that for those that do have the money.
I think you're starting to see that with some of our large employers, large manufacturers, especially. I know the state has worked with a couple of new facilities, new big, large manufacturing facilities that went ahead and built a daycare on site because they were going through all the process and could easily do that. So, but Mayor, I can tell you, get you fired up, doesn't it? That's all right. It is one of those things.
It's frustrating.
It gets you fired up.
I mean, there's a reason why I can't recruit another licensed child care. I've tried. I called a lady that's got the max, and she wanted to grow. And when she checked into it, she called me back and said, "Thank you so much, Mayor. No thanks. I'm not interested. I'll just keep my 4 or 5. I'll go over the limit a little bit so I don't get too much trouble and continue to make my money at home." Not very easy.
I would also like to point out too is that when they're an unlicensed home, you run the risk of proper care. You know, that there's some, maybe some things that aren't followed, or, you know, you don't want to put any children in danger that are in unlicensed homes. And I'm not saying that that's, you know, a problem. I don't know. I don't have the statistics on that, but it's a concern. If they're unlicensed and they're unregulated, then who's really watching them? Who's checking in on those unlicensed homes other than the parents? And sometimes you can't always be there until, you know, unfortunately something tragic happens.
There's been cases of different sorts of abuse, and even the most appealing looking and well-meaning homes.
Absolutely.
For, you know, others that survive.
Sure, that's all we got.
That's it? All right. Any old business? Any new business? What about public comments? Who's public comment?
I just want to say one thing on that childcare thing. I have children who are trying to start their families, trying to find somebody to keep a baby when you have to go back to work in 6 months is almost impossible. And it's very expensive, more so if you do find one. But that's a huge stepping stone to do we do families, do we not. If grandparents are not at retirement age where they can keep them for them, they're in a real tight spot with what can we do.
Correct. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other public comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Vote adjourned.
Thank you very much.